Welcome to SessionWell. My name is Adam Luke. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist. I currently work full-time in the substance abuse and alcohol residential field. This is...
I'm Judy. I'm also an associate marriage and family therapist. I work in private practice at Rendezvous Counseling in Brea.
All right, so what is SessionWell? Why do you care about us? So SessionWell is this. It is a place to exist where you're a pre-licensed clinician, whether that's an MFT, LCSW, licensed professional clinical counselor, whatever it is, we are a space for you. We're also a space for the average Joe. If you wanted to ever find out what's behind the mind of your therapist, boom, this is why we have this place. It came to being when Judy and I started out in this field as associate marriage family therapists in private practice. It felt very lonely, and we said we don't want to have this anymore. We want a community where people can feel linked in. So you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Facebook. We actually have a community on Facebook where we have real life professionals posting questions or average Joes. So you are all invited to that. Thank you for listening.
And we also have SessionWell website as well, SessionWell.com. And always thanks for my brother Fred Yen at Kira Studios, who does all of our marketing. And so if you're ever looking for promo videos or client lead generations or he helps us, or website, you can always contact him at Kira Studios. So thank you for joining us.
Perfect. So what are we talking about this week? This week we're talking about food.
My favorite subject ever. I love food.
So this was one of those that, believe it or not, Judy came up with.
Yes.
And I wanted to know a little bit more on why food.
Okay, so I'll be honest. When I say I struggle with food, it means that I love it a little bit too much. And so I'm always looking for fad diets, or I would say in my childhood, a little bit in my adulthood, a little bit right before my wedding, I was trying to figure out how to lose weight the fastest way I can. And just being obviously an MFT, that's not the healthiest mentality. And so I'm just kind of on a new thing where it's not so much about how much weight I want to lose. It's more about what makes me feel healthy. And I absolutely I don't know, there's been a lot of research on it, but I don't even know if it's 100%, but I don't even care. But I know that food matters on my health, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And so to me, that's why I kind of wanted to do a podcast on just what does food mean to us individually, as a society, and then what foods we have found just through research and talking to other MFTs that have been really helpful in just our overall mental health.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I wanted to do it. And I will say the times that I have done healthy eating or a cleanse or with Whole30, that was kind of a recent one, or paleo, those kinds of things, even though it might sound miserable because you can't have things like donuts. Aside from the weight loss component, it really legitimately actually made me feel very good. More energy, better skin. I just think it's all combined.
Absolutely. And we got to think of ourselves as our own ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I was so scared yet also stoked to talk about this one on a podcast is because I will say in my own life, food has had at times a grasp on my own life that I didn't enjoy. It wasn't healthy, right? So when we talk about whether we're talking as a clinician or coming to you as just average Joes, the fact is food has a very powerful structure in our society and also in ourselves. And if we aren't disciplined and deliberate on how we use food, it's very easy for us to then abuse food.
Absolutely.
Right? So we'll talk about that a little more, obviously. So where do you want to start?
I don't know. We can talk about healthy. So obviously this is for mental health, podcast type of thing. So we can kind of just start with, I don't know, I kind of want to start with what food means to us. I think I like that better.
Yes, I think that's exactly where we'll start. So you want me to kick it off?
Sure.
All right, so Judy and I were talking a little bit about this before we kicked this off, but I have this question. So what does food mean for you? But also, if you were to think right now, what would be the meal you could have if you could be anywhere in the world, where would it be? So for myself, I very much go back to when I used to spend my summers with my grandma, and I used to live with her. And every morning, I would wake up to home-cooked biscuits and gravy.
Every morning?
Every morning that I was there. And it was awesome. And they were so darn tasty. So when I think of my pinnacle comfort food, is biscuits and gravy. Obviously, not the healthiest thing in the
Right,
world.
every day.
Especially
No
every
offense to your
morning.
grandma.
Yeah, but my grandma was cut from a different cloth. Like, calories and cholesterol didn't exist. So that's where I would go. Where would you go if you could have any meal that you could have in the world?
Oh, I don't know where I would go. I mean, I have like my fatty comfort foods. Like I love chips and salsa and guacamole. Like I can literally eat that breakfast, lunch, dinner all the time. French fries and tater tots is definitely a go-to. Pizza makes me feel very happy while I'm eating it. Maybe not so much afterwards. If I had to be at a place, it probably would be my mom's home cooking. Like I love Chinese food. I think trying to be healthier, I try not to eat too much of it. But like when my mom cooks like a favorite dish that she has, like that does make me feel like very comforted. Do I know if it makes me feel like emotionally better afterwards? I don't know, because my mom uses a lot of MSG, like Mama Yen. Like I know MSG is like not good for you, but it makes food taste really good.
Oh, absolutely. So it's something I wanted to point out right now while we're stuck in this moment. So whether you're looking on video or you are hearing us on the podcast, when we were talking about our personal experiences, you hear our voices change, the speed in which we used our words. Obviously, we are linking on to an attachment, right, of something that really means something for us. Mm-hmm. So this is something we have to be cognizant of ourselves when we talk about what does food mean to us. Because as we go throughout our days, we use food that same way.
Totally.
And so for me, it's very easy for me to emotionally overeat.
Oh, me too.
Super easy.
Like all the time.
I can eat like a super good healthy meal in the morning, no problems, and you're at work and things start going rough, and so maybe you go have a soda, and then all of a sudden someone brings donuts, and then all of a sudden, and boom, before you know, you like punch it into your little app and you realize you just consumed a white elephant. So you've got to sit back there and go, well, where did it all break loose? Again, we have to be deliberate. I know this sounds stupid about our emotions, right?
Yes, and our eating, very, very intentional.
Yeah, like you have to check yourself. Like what, and so this is what we're talking about, because food can be used as an asset and it can be used as a liability. Right now, we've talked a little bit about an asset in the beautiful things that we remember, especially our mom's cooking meals, our grandmother's cooking meals. But then I loved how you pointed out with the pizza. We also spend money, especially if you're an American citizen. You spend a crap load of money on food.
So much.
And guess what? How many times do we sit after our meal and go, I feel stuffed, I don't feel good, I feel bloated, I feel or even you have, let's be honest, nasty side effects if your body did not accept your offering.
Diarrhea.
And so, yeah, exactly. Thanks. You brought it up, dropped the word. It's the truth. So, if you know my background a little bit, I brought up the fact that I work in alcohol and drug substance abuse. I would say that America's #1 drug is actually food.
Oh, I think so. That's what Dr. Oz says, that sugar in certain foods is like cocaine.
Well, did you know that actually the brain of an individual, if you take a person who uses sugar all the time, so again, every American citizen, then you take the mind of someone on cocaine or heroin, and you went ahead and did an MRI, the brain structures light up the same whether I'm shooting up heroin or I'm eating a donut.
Totally.
This is real life. This isn't a joke. This isn't ha ha ha. No, this is the fact that we are slaves to sugar in so many ways. Now, I'm telling you this right now, and I'm craving a horchata for my drive home. So, like, I will tell you straight up, like I can know it. I can be a professional. I can work with people, but I'm telling you right now, we are abusing our bodies just as much as if we were shooting up coke or heroin or we're actually eating sugary substances. So this is why it's a very important topic, and it's also important because we'll get to it. This is a developmental thing that you pass on to your kids.
Yes.
Okay, how you use food is how they're going to use food, and that is something that let's break that intergenerational transmission. So in front of you, Judy, you have 3 good foods.
Yes. And kind of just going back to what you're saying, I just
Please.
want to say, we're not coming from like, oh my God, we're so fit. And like, I don't know about you guys, and no offense to like skinny people or lean people. I always look at them and go, you skinny bitches, you don't know. Of course, you skinny bitch can like easily tell me all these good things to eat, but you are skinny and you've probably never struggled with weight. And not that all skinny people are bitches, I'm sorry.
We want all the skinny bitches still to follow us?
Yes, and we love you, and we applaud the way you have gone to be lean and healthy and fit. And so just like as a normal average person, maybe a little bit on the chubbier side for myself. Whatever, that's my own thing. But we're not coming from like we're telling you this because we know so much better and we're so fit ourselves. It's like, no, like we are the struggling American who is struggling. Like food can be an issue for us. And so I think that being intentional about food choices as I'm becoming older and like things, all this sugar just sticks to your body and things don't fit as well. You have to be very mindful of like the foods that you are choosing.
Absolutely.
And they may not be the comfort food you were trained on as a kid, but it is literally retraining your brain to start to like things. And I do know that when I do cut out sugar, depending on when that is, when I start eating it again, or salty foods, it does have a huge impact on my palate. It literally is retraining your palate.
You actually end up tasting foods
so differently.
So differently, and I would actually say in a much more enjoyable manner. It did blow me away. So I have done Whole30. I also did intermittent fasting. My wife and I are trying to very much find a diet that works for us. And I hate using the word diet because really it's a lifestyle, right? Change, yeah. So you have to find something that works for you. But once I've done that, I've noticed that there's so many other things that are impacted. So thanks for taking that time. Of course.
So going back to healthy food. So I was looking at a bunch of different things, and I've also taken a workshop, and I'll mention her in a minute, but it kind of across, I mean, there's tons of foods out there that you can eat that's healthy for you, but kind of the three that was just really simple, and I'll be honest, that was easy for me to grab on my way over here, was almonds, oranges, and spinach. And so each one has its own value. We can start with, let's do oranges, because I think there's different issues with orange. So with oranges, it's really good it has vitamin C, and so things that I have noticed with oranges in general is the fact that it helps with cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And as a working adult, stress is a huge component of my life. And so I even have taught my students that if you just smell an orange, or any like citrusy fruits, it does actually reduce your stress levels, which is really fascinating.
Especially when you think of, if you've ever been around someone who has the orange air fresheners, you spray in your house. It's actually interesting when they've done research on people who use, I think it's also Pledge, right? No, not Pledge. There's an orange furniture cleaner. I forget what it is. But they were talking about scaling exercises. So scaling individuals who walked into areas that had the scent of citrus or orange, and how people generally had a brighter disposition than walking into something that was either more neutral or had more of a chemical smell to it.
Right.
So that's something to also think of just going through life.
Right.
Like, I love the idea of just smelling an orange. Like, it might sound creepy and stupid, but it actually works.
But you don't want to like just think, but just like caution, don't drink too much orange juice, because orange juice does have a lot of sugar. I mean, fruits in general have a lot of sugar, but it is more natural. And then there's also another intervention that we've talked about when it comes to oranges, is that I heard that you can use it with people that self-harm. And then you were saying that you...
So I use it with people who self-harm. So what you do with an orange, so if you have people that unfortunately are cutting, or people who again like to cause themselves harm, you use an orange you take an orange, you stick it in a freezer, right? Then you when this person becomes triggered, you ask them, hey, let's peel this orange. The reason that it becomes so difficult is when you freeze an orange, it's very hard to get the rind off. And so what actually happens is your fingers will actually start to hurt, because it's really hard to rip this from the fruit. So they're getting the cathartic release of the fact that the rind can feel sometimes like flesh. And the other side of it is causing some sort of pain that's not detrimental to their life. The goal is to get them so that they don't want to do this at all, but this is very much for if you have children or someone in your life that's going through a very difficult time. So causing them self-harm by picking at themselves or causing bruising, they can go ahead and try to rip it off the orange. And I will tell you this, every single person I've worked with that has actually utilized the intervention has reported back to me like, wow, it did actually work as the intervention. I didn't feel like I needed to hurt myself in a different way. So if they will do it, it's a great resource to do. I definitely recommend it, especially working with the work I've done with developing meals. It's a big takeaway.
So that's one that you can use, and it's not only good for your physical health, but also for your mental health. Okay, the other one I have is spinach. Do you like spinach?
I do if it's cooked.
Okay, well this one's not, so it's in a salad.
Yeah, whatever.
And so spinach actually has something called tryptophan.
Don't worry, you can Google it.
You can Google it. Just Google spinach mental health. But this is actually really good with serotonin. And so those of you that know about serotonin, it is a neurotransmitter. It helps with our sleep, our emotions, our mood, all of that stuff. And a lot of times, serotonin gets released when it comes to like our mental health, like in our gastrointestinal tract. And so what I learned a lot of times is that those of us that have, like, we all display stress physically different. Like, where do you experience your stress?
Absolutely, my gut.
Your stomach?
I'm very much a gut stomach person.
Yes. So same with me. Whether it's, not me personally, I mean, like, okay, whether you have constipation or diarrhea, I didn't want to just say like, oh, I have constipation, diarrhea right now. Yeah. Constipation or diarrhea, or just like gassiness, and you're very sensitive, just whatever foods you're eating. Some studies have shown that chronic stress does happen in our stomach.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is so interesting, because when I tell that to my students, they're kind of like, uh-oh. You could tell, like, they're like, oh no. Because you can have like backaches and headaches and that kind of stuff. But if you have a lot of stomach stuff, a lot of it is an indication that there's a lot of stressors, and it's been like very chronic.
So feeding that system non-nutritious food only ruins it. So you become stressed. You then decide, I'm going to go pile a pizza. You get a pizza, then your stomach and your intestinal tract is not going to accept it.
Yes.
And then you feel even worse, and more depression walks in. So just bringing this off, it's still on topic, but I love to go back through, basically, if we look at this from a biological standpoint, pretty much every mammal alive right now, when it is thrown into a heightened state of awareness of stress or anxiety, defecates. Okay?
Right.
And
it's a fancy word for shit.
Yeah,
sorry.
Shits themselves. And it's funny because we can watch this and we go, oh, wow, well, of course, the animal does this so the animal can escape whatever is chasing it. But we very rarely apply that to ourselves. So if you think, oh, my system's defunct and I'm broken and oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed, it's a natural response to this. It's just we normally compound it by eating stuff that's still not good for us.
Right.
And I loved how you brought up the other side of, if you eat non-nutritional food, so again, maybe we're going to comfort, we're just carbon up, we've got a lot of flours, a lot of stuff like that, then what happens is we are going to chemically change our own balance in our body. So I'm not going to feel certain serotonin, certain dopamine reactions, certain things, because I'm filling myself full of stuff that I'm not going to process.
And it's so fascinating, because why do we continue to eat foods that make us feel bad? My natural reaction is because it tastes amazing, but it's like, I think our bodies are telling us something. Like, I'll admit, I don't think dairy is good for me, just like, I don't know if it's an Asian thing, but what do I eat I always have a coffee with half and half. Half and half is dairy. You know what I mean? And like, I just hate the transition of going to almond milk or oat milk, because it's like, it's not the same. But really, my body's telling me, hey, you probably shouldn't be consuming that, but you continue to. So I just think it's really good to also not just stuff ourselves with things we find to be delicious, but things that are actually really healthy.
And think of the financial freedom we would get if we didn't turn to food as a way of medicating ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we spend a lot of money on our foods, on our meals, to then feel crappy.
I know.
My wife and I had this thought process a week or two ago. We ate at a place that we just, high-end restaurant, meal was amazing, but before I left the table, I felt sick.
Oh no.
I shouldn't say felt sick. I just felt like so stuffed.
Yeah.
That it was like, it was a little bit miserable for the rest of the day, because I just was like, dude, I just want to lay down and die. So again, if someone came to you and said, this is how I feel every time I do something, I bet you your blindness wouldn't be there, and you'd be like, well, you need to stop doing that. But for me, it's like, well, hold up there. I'm going to continue doing this thing that makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
So, again, going to brain scans. I love brain scan and research and what our minds do. So, again, in that moment where we're either getting our sugar demand met or we're, just gluttonous food, whatever it is, you can watch how these centers in your brain are firing up, right? The joy is being felt. You're having this moment, but then you can take that same brain, less than 5 minutes later. In some cases it might be delayed in others, and you see that, oh no, I feel terrible. More centers in the brain are firing up around depression, around
exactly,
anxiety, through all this other stuff because we're not feeling good, but yet we're constantly piling it in. So I know, again, you guys might go, well, they're just therapists and they're throwing it in. I have no problem saying this. I'm 350 pounds. I understand that I'm actively wrestling with my food consumption now and making sure that I don't just emotionally eat. But the reason why we brought this out was because, again, food can be an asset. It doesn't have to be a liability, and you can still get the same, you can actually get a better feeling of
value,
value, enjoyment, content, and that's why we're bringing this up. Yeah,
my personal story was that a week before my wedding, I had to do my last fitting. So your last fitting is supposed to be like, oh, like I'm so pretty and this is great. But I had sushi the night before, which had a ton of soy sauce, and I didn't do the light kind. I did the regular, and I stuffed my face. And when I went in for my fitting, I almost didn't fit in the dress, even though I had been actively trying to be healthier, and I felt so bad about myself. And I felt ugly, and I was bloated, and even the lady at the store, she was trying to be really nice, but she was even kind of like, oh, your dress isn't fitting you the same today, so you have a week to basically fix that. And so did that tap into my emotional health? Absolutely. Mentally, I had all these negative cognitions. Physically, I felt bad. Emotionally, I was crying, you know what I mean? So
absolutely,
we are very much a big, as we're doing podcasts like this, it's also us teaching ourselves too. It's not just that we know it all. It's more hey,
we're learning with you. Trust me.
So spinach, so again, spinach is good because it helps with serotonin. And same thing with turkey, that helps as well. And then that also ups serotonin, which is good for us. And so if you are on an antidepressant like an SSRI, that also treats the brain part of you, whereas foods more like spinach would help the stomach part, the physical body. So if you're on an antidepressant, I'm not saying that eating a ton of spinach is going to get rid of the depression, but it doesn't necessarily hurt, and it can also balance it out, just overall health as well.
Exactly. Go after something that's positive. What we do know is it will help to your benefit, not to your detriment.
Right. And the other one I have, which is easy, is almonds. If you look at almost all sorts of diets, whether it's Whole30 or I'm not quite sure about keto, but paleo or the Mediterranean diet, they usually always include almonds. Not all nuts, because some nuts aren't as great for you. But almonds can be good. And so it has B12 in it, and so just grabbing a snack, it actually helps feed your brain, it fuels you. And a lot of times people connect food to your car. It's what, isn't it a range? Isn't it premium, regular shit?
So you have your lowest grade, your mid grade, and your high grade, right?
Right, and so that is food. It is fueling your bodies, and so which grade do you want to put inside of you?
Exactly. Basically. Would you like to? It's funny, all the people will put the highest grade fuel in their car because they want it to run perfect, and then we eat absolute crap.
Right.
Right. So I appreciate you bringing up about soy sauce. So the other side is it's pretty much well documented. The American food regimen is stocked full of sodium, and so something we don't think about is sodium is actually an inflammation.
Yes.
So it's not going to work again to your benefit. It makes food taste great. That's why MSG makes stuff taste great.
Amazing.
But at the same time, it helps make you feel more bloated. It raises your heart pressure. Yeah. It has all these bad effects to it. Yet, if you spend enough time eating away from salt, cooking your own meals, not using salt alternatives, which is balsamic vinegar, all sorts of other things, you can actually use lemon. I didn't realize how powerful lemon was as a salt alternative. All of a sudden, you'll realize oh wow, maybe my smell changes, maybe my ankles change.
Right.
Believe it or not, your joints.
How your jewelry fits.
How everything fits. So this is all, again, if we go from a psychodynamic perspective, you cannot eat poorly and have it not affect your brain.
Absolutely.
Dr. Amonds really talks about this. If you need to talk about anyone, I'm blanking on his first name, but Dr. Amonds, if you look up brain scan, Dr. Amonds, it will pop up on Google and you'll see him. We watched, I think you were with me, at the evolution of psychotherapy.
Yes, therapy.
Yep. He did a whole panel on basically eating right.
Yes,
He also has a cookbook. But the real big thing about this guy is neurologically, he's one of the head scientists, or I would say doctors on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's found out that blood flow to the brain is impacted by the food we eat. So that was something that really hit me right in my core, was like, holy crap, I kind of like my brain. I would like it to function well. I have ambitions for myself. Yes. And depending on what I eat, I'm starving my brain and doing damage that it will not recover from 100%. Mm-hmm. So again, all of a sudden I'm kind of paying attention to what I eat. I still have my bad days. I still fail. But I will sit there and I will think, do I really want that burrito bowl or whatever it is if it's going to affect my mind? Now, again, come on, stuff to work on, but maybe that's a way that we have to look at it. Because it's very easy for us to say, well, I'll eat healthy tomorrow, or I'm going to I'm going to have my cheat meal,
day,
and then I'm going to fix it with dinner, right? Because that's the way I talk myself out of my diet all the time. Is someone will be like, hey, let's go to lunch. One of my coworkers, and be like, oh, I never go to lunch with this person, so I don't want to say no. Yeah. So then I'll go to lunch, and then I'll eat a terrible meal, and I'll be like, well, I'll fix it for dinner, and then I get home, and the wife has cooked something good, and then all of a sudden I can't not eat because that would make her upset, and then all of a sudden I just blew my day, right?
Totally.
So these are the concepts we have to have, you know. I love that when I'm working with individuals in substance abuse or alcohol addiction, we talk about one day at a time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when we're thinking about diet and food in our lives, we need to have that same thought process, one day at a time. Yes. Because if I tell you, no, I'm going to do it different, I can't guarantee that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've really appreciated about substance abuse. A treatment is the fact that we don't future think. We think of right now. I can tell you I can be sober for this next minute, and therefore the next hour, and then I can be sober today. So that's what we focus on.
Yeah. And then I had gone to this workshop for teens. It was led, this was a few years ago, but this was one of my favorite workshops, and it just stuck with me all these years. It was by Dawn DePasquale, I think is her name. But she talked a lot about anxiety disorders in children and adolescents, and the part that really stuck out to me was the food part, because, like, food's my life. And some of the things that she said that was just really fascinating for, like, kind of the last part of this is that if you're looking for good foods for children who have stomach problems, especially when it's stemming from anxiety, because a lot of kids, I think, hold their anxiety in their stomachs. She's saying things that are helpful are like rice, Quaker oats, unsalted saltines, bread, mashed potatoes. Ginger is really helpful, so that's why a lot of times when women are pregnant, they'll eat ginger candy because it actually helps alleviate the nausea. And then peppermints can also help be more grounding. And I know that, like, if you're into an essential oils person, like, peppermint sometimes will help with focus, because that really was really helpful. And then if you just want a list of helpful foods that we've kind of, like, we're just kind of doing the research for you, here's a list of helpful foods. It's dark chocolate because it does help with stress. Spinach, we already said. Avocado is a good fat for our brains. Oranges, we've already said. Certain nuts is good. Turkey, sweet potatoes are good. Dried apricots, if you smelled them, can also be very grounding and relaxing. And then any sort of, like, green leafy veggies.
Also fish.
Fish, yes. Omega-3.
Say that again.
Omega-3.
Omega-3. So it's only in certain fish. Salmon's the most common. Tilapia is not a fish you want to touch. Okay. We won't go into that. Okay. Just no on tilapia. There's like zero nutritional value.
Interesting.
Excuse me, but it's sold like everywhere, and people don't realize that. It's literally the rats of the sea. Anyways, we'll get past that. But again, I wanted to say thank you so much to all of you that are listening into these podcasts and where we're going and what we're doing with it. We're going to change this up a little from the last time we were doing it. It's going to be more Judy and I. The reason being is we think we have good stuff to bring you, and we're hoping to share this space with you.
Yeah. And if you ever want to grab a meal with us and, like, eat all the healthy foods, please contact us. We're so happy to do that.
Yep. Again, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. I hope if you're driving, please keep driving safe. If you're just enjoying this time, we've enjoyed it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.